Task 8 is about plan and manage scope in both both our predictive as well as adaptive project management. So we know that we need to determine and prioritize requirement. In predictive, you are responsible to collect the requirements and put them in a document called as requirement traceability matrix. In adaptive, product owner is responsible to elicitate the requirements in the form of epics and user stories and place them in a document or artifact called as product backlog. And that should be prioritized by following the Moscow or Kanu or 100 point or peer comparison methods or based upon the customer prioritizations. Once we have the requirement traceability matrix available, we'll make the project scope statement, and then we will visualize the work with the help of work breakdown structure and work breakdown structure dictionary, which will contain activities. Or we will have the updated or prioritized product backlog. Once we have the updated baseline available, the scope baseline contains project scope statement, WBS and WBS dictionary, while product backlog is considered also as a scope baseline in adaptive project. So you need to continue, monitor, and validate the scope, which means control scope for any changes and validate a scope for acceptance. In adaptive one, we do the review meeting for the demo and feedback or to collect new requirements or updated requirements. And then we update the product backlog. We ask product owner to update the product backlog. If you have not watched the videos of meetings and the roles of the product owner and agile and in predictive, the role of project manager, you can go and watch on the channel again. Let's begin the questions. You are managing a hybrid project. In hybrid project manager is leading while product owner is working under project manager for the unknown part. High level scope was baseline in a predictive charter. During sprint 2, the product owner reprioritized the backlog items and remove one previously baselined feature. The sponsor notices and question scope integrity. Very good question. That one thing which was baseline from the predictive scope was in adaptive backlog and product owner removed it. And you know, when project manager is leading with the predictive mindset and predictive methodology, then everything has to be done with the help of change control. What should the PM do next? Reinstate the remove feature because it was baseline. Explain that backlog reprioritization is allowed within approved scope boundaries and validate whether the remove features affect the scope baseline. Freeze backlog reprioritization until formal change control approval. Allow backlog reprioritization without further review because Agile embraces change. Very close answers, but choose carefully. What do you think will be a better answer? Even I feel that all options are correct, but one is better option. And that's what I see in the trends in the answers, the way they are coming. So we cannot just decide and do allow and so on. We need to foster the education. If you remember the one of the tasks, foster the stakeholders. So ultimately, B is better answer. Explain that backlog reprioritization is allowed within approved scope and validate whether the removed feature affect the scope baseline before even going through for those processes. Then the second will be the second step that you can go with. See if it is happening again and again, you can use force technique, the conflict management technique. So you can freeze it, or if sponsor is consistent, then yes, you can bring it back. But please read the question carefully. So correct answer is B. Yes. Next. Stakeholder continue adding must-have features mid-release. The backlog is expanding and velocity suggests the release date will slip. Product owner insists everything is critical. What should the PM do first? You guys read the answers and please put it in the chat window. So add resource to maintain scope and deadlines, facilitate value-based prioritization, align with business case and release goal, submit a change request for each feature, reduce quality criteria, so reduce is out of the league, and adding resource, whether in predictive or adaptive, you need to use change request, and submit change request for each features is not a good option because we have product owner. So product owner will be responsible for this. So yes, better answer is B. Very good. A user story is marked done according to the team's definition of done. During a sprint review, stakeholder rejected because it lacks a reporting capability. They assumed was included. They assumed was included. Assume means when I read it, I found that maybe the definition of done is missing. What is the most appropriate action? Revisit acceptance criteria, alignment during backlog refinement, and strengthen validation practices. Expand the definition of done to include reporting by default. Submit a defect ticket and rework the story. Freeze backlog changes to avoid confusion. So there are two correct answers, but one is better. One is a bit generalized answer, and one is a precise answer, which is answering the question. So yes, A is correct answer. B is a bit generalized. Very good. Next, in a hybrid project, high-level deliverables are defined in a WBS, while detailed functionality is managed in the backlog. A stakeholder claims the backlog does not reflect the WBS fully. What should the PM do first? Break down WBS, work package into backlog apex, and ensure traceability between both artifacts. Remove WBS since agile backlog is sufficient. Ask stakeholders to use backlog only. Add backlog items informally to satisfy stakeholder concerns. So better answer, which answer the question is exactly. Try to make them like this. I think during the training I've shown you the work package and so on. Very good. Next. A sponsor claims sprint reviews are insufficient for formal acceptance and want a separate validation process before increment release. What is the most appropriate response? Replace sprint reviews with formal acceptance meeting. Integrate formal scope validation criteria into sprint reviews to satisfy governance needs. Reject the sponsor request. Add additional documentation without changing the review process. And I told you when you see the word sprint, a sprint means Scrum, and Scrum is very particular about following their framework. You cannot change anything for them. You have to follow all of their processes as much as possible. You cannot do one or half or something like this. So in that context, when you see the word sprint, they are very particular about it. So it means you cannot do A. So better option is yes, B. Next. During backlog refinement, the team increases the scope of a user story significantly because it improves usability. No formal change request is raised. What should the PM do next? Allow it because backlog refinement allows evolution. Evaluate whether the change affect approved release scope or baseline and apply change governance as necessary. Stop backlog refinement sessions, reduce refinement frequency. So better answer is yes, exactly. Very good. Next, during iteration review, a stakeholder says this feature technically meets the user story, but it does not support the business outcome we expected. What should the PM do first? Validate scope by reviewing acceptance criteria and business outcome alignment with the stakeholders. Control scope by rejecting the stakeholders' feedback. Ask PO to reprioritize future stories. Increase sprint length to improve features completeness. So better option is exactly. Better option is A. Validate scope by reviewing acceptance criteria and business alignment with the stakeholders. It's normally a product owner task, but you can facilitate this process. You will not do it. You will sit with them. You will guide them, coach them, because your task is coaching and mentoring. Velocity indicates the current release cannot include all features. Stakeholder insist commitments must be honored. What is the most appropriate actions? Reprioritize backlog items and adjust release scope aligned to MVP and business value. Reprioritize backlog items and adjust release to scope aligned to MVP and business objectives. Add more developers. Increase sprint duration. So you will go for business value or you will go for business objective. Exactly. Business objectives is not our task. Very good. Let's go next. A predictive milestone requires regulatory documentation. Agile team proposes postponing documentation until after product increment is built. We need to facilitate because they have different understanding. What should the PM do? Allow postponement since Agile supports working product over documentation as per the principle of Agile. Ensure regulatory documentation is included within the backlog and release plan to meet milestone governance and requirement. Remove the milestone requirement, deliver product first and document later. When it comes to regulatory, you have to be very proactive. So, yes, correct answer is B. For compliance and regulations, no compromises. Next, a hybrid project reports that sprint velocity is stable and milestones are on track. However, a benefit realization review indicates expected business improvement are not materializing. What should the PM do next? Increase velocity. Can you do this? Reassess the scope alignment with business case and adjust backlog priorities accordingly. Extend project duration. Increase reporting frequency. So it has nothing to do with reporting, right? It has nothing to do with project duration. And you cannot increase velocity by yourself. The velocity depends on the story points, complexity, and efforts required. So yes, correct answer is B. Very good. And that is the end of task 8 also.